Yeah, so I really want to say again, this impacts so many people. We did a survey, and more than half of Tennesseans on their regular commute, they are driving through school zones or by school bus stops. So, everybody listen up, even if you don't have young kids. So, we came up with the ABCs of school zone safety for drivers. So, A is avoid distractions. You want to make sure that you're focused on the road at all times, but especially through those school zones and possible bus stops. No texting, no eating, no multitasking. And then B is for break for safety. Slow down and stay alert. Sometimes those school zones are unpredictable. You have the young students, you have the new drivers. So really be ready to stop at a moment's notice. And then C is check for pedestrians and bicyclists. Watch for pedestrians and bicycles, even in your neighborhood. They could be crossing your driveway, especially in school zones. You will be advised most of the time with them crossing the road, either with crossing guards or those flashing lights. But also, you may see some safety patrollers directing those walkers, and always be ready again to yield to them and to drive cautiously in those areas where those, young pedestrians or bicyclists may be.
Yeah, that's really helpful. I mean, so something can happen so quickly.
It really
I do
can.
also want to ask you, are there any specific points of the day where people should be really on high alert?
In the afternoons when children are getting out of school, they are, admittedly excited after school. They may not be paying as much attention as they were in the mornings. So you want to make sure that, especially on your kind of drive home, or if you're running errands during that time between 3, maybe even 2:30 and 4, really be alert. Make sure that you're watching out for those young students, but also around those school zones, know that there may be young drivers, new drivers, and maybe give them some extra consideration as well.
Yeah, when it comes to those new drivers, do you have any advice to them when they're out on the roads?
Yeah, so for our young drivers, just again, make sure that you are buckled up, you're not speeding, and you're putting down those devices. We see that those are the common factors in crashes, especially for our young drivers when they are in a vehicle with other young drivers. They are very distracted. In Tennessee, we actually have the graduated driver's licensing, so young drivers should not be driving with others in the vehicle. However, other things can take their attention. So there's a law banning young drivers from being on their phones at all, even hands free during those school zones, just to try to protect those pedestrians and other people walking in the area.
And those are the type of conversations maybe parents should be happening or having with those students.
Yes. So make sure that you're talking to your young drivers. This may be the first time that they have encountered school zones, certainly the first time in a few months, even if they did drive last year. So have those conversations with your young driver, also with, your school age kids, that they need to try to make eye contact before they cross the road. Hopefully our young students are being directed by crossing guards at those stops or by parents. But it's always a good idea that our young pedestrians also know the rules of the road.
And when it comes to making mistakes on the road, I think everybody is guilty of that. But specifically school buses, you constantly see these videos posted online across the country of people not obeying those rules. Could you go over some of those?
Yeah, so again, in our survey, 43% of people admitted to speeding in an active school zone, and then 30 admitted to using their handheld cell phone while in those active school zones. So kind of, if you want to imagine in your mind that school zone, it also kind of expands to those bus stops as well. So if you are on most of the roads here in Tennessee, unless it is a divided highway with a divider in the middle of the road, you do have to stop either lane that you are in. If a school bus is at a stop and it has the stop sign out, you do have to stop regardless of the direction that you are in. because kids may be coming from across the road to load that school bus. They may be exiting the school bus and having to walk across the street. So traffic does need to stop until those students are across the road and until that bus driver has pulled in the stop sign. So this is, again, for everyone's protection, especially those vulnerable pedestrians. And it applies right now, but it's also throughout the school year.
Stephanie, one thing that also just came to my mind, we're going to fall back eventually here in the next few months, and it's going to be darker earlier. Do you have any advice for people going through those school zones kind of early in the morning?
Yeah, early mornings, they are so tough, especially when the time changes, people are extra drowsy. So this is another good reminder to make sure that you are not distracted, that you're paying attention. And all of us can, kind of fall into this lull of driving through areas that we typically go through. And, you're kind of on autopilot sometimes, but especially when it's dark, make sure that you don't kind of have your brain on autopilot and that you're paying attention. And for those parents out there, make sure that you have some reflective items on your child's backpack or, on their shirt or something like that. Talk to the students about not being distracted at the bus stop, standing 5 steps away from the street. And really, it's hard for the younger students, but not horse playing while they're waiting on the bus, and making sure that they're doing what they can do to protect themselves while they're waiting on the bus to get there.
Did you say 5 steps back?
Yes, so they need to be 5 steps back from the road or more. That's fine. But I know with the little ones, sometimes they want to be first loading the bus, and so they'll try to form a line and get in front of each other. But 5 steps back is the general rule, just to make sure that they have some space for that vehicle. If there's, if the vehicle isn't maybe paying attention, they're not right there on the road in the way of danger.
Some really helpful tips there. Is there any more you want to add or tell me that we may have missed out on?
I would just like to say that even though it is back to school right now, these tips do, go through the whole school year. It's nothing that should be new. We as drivers should certainly be looking out for pedestrians all through the school year.
Absolutely. And where can people learn more information?
So AAA.com will have all of our traffic safety tips on there, and they can find out more at AAA.com.